This chapter covers the aspects of what forensic photography brings to crime scene investigation. Photography is a valuable tool in being able to document the characteristics of a crime scene and communicate them to others, both in courtroom settings and for crime scene reconstruction purposes. In this chapter, we will cover various issues affecting photography at crime scenes, its objectives, what forensic photography is and what it is not, as well as methods of photography, advantages and disadvantages of videotaping crime scenes, and digital camera basics, to name a few. Forensic photographs are used to record the conditions of the scene in their original form prior to any change which is necessary in the recall of information, sometimes weeks, months, or even years in the future. This involves recording the location of physical evidence, especially from the points of view of the parties to the crime scene. And this is used in combination with other forms of documentation, for instance, sketches or narratives, to document the relationships between evidence items and other aspects of the crime scene. Forensic photographs are used to supplement the other forms of documentation that are used in a crime scene, not to be used in the place of them. In keeping with the definition of forensic science, by that I mean applying the scientific process to investigation, forensic photographs must not be confused or utilized in the same way as, say, artistic photography, where the intent of artistic photography might be to elicit feeling, emotion, or convey ironic perspective. Photography in an investigation is meant to capture the physical aspects of an area in its actuality. As with any scientific process, forensic photography involves a system of techniques for investigating and acquiring knowledge. Therefore, a systematic approach is necessary to ensure that all photographs are taken at the scene prior to any actions that may compromise the integrity of the scene. Another aspect of the scientific process is that of documentation. Photography at a crime scene should be documented according to order of events, time, date, location, and items photographed, as well as who the photographs were taken by. In forensic photography, we use what is known as the rule of three, which refers to the composing of sets of images in such a way as to guide the viewer toward the focal point of each set of images. This is accomplished by setting up photographs first from a long-range view, then a medium range, and lastly a close-up view. The investigator is using this method of evidence collection to illustrate the storyline of the scene to those who were not there, such as judges, juries, other investigators, and even attorneys associated with the case. It should be done from the point of view of the witnesses at the scene and illustrate the aspects such as the path or paths the suspect took to and from the scene. Photographs are taken of the general layout of the area, physical items of evidence and their location to other items nearby are noted. Latent pieces of evidence such as impressions and prints are photographed, and someone's physical wounds are all examples of types of evidence that can be photographed at crime scenes. The choice of camera used in crime scene investigations is determined in a variety of ways, such as ease of use, new technology, the conditions that are being photographed, or investigator preference. However, the reality is that specialized training and budgets for equipment have greater to do with what type of cameras that are used by any particular department or investigator than any of the other categories. Crime scene photography has come along from the days where Polaroid self-developing instant pictures or basic 35mm film was used. In today's investigative environment, the 35mm camera is being replaced by the digital SLR, or single lens reflex camera, which, like 35mm cameras, have zoom and macro capabilities, yet bring additional attributes such as immediate photographic analysis and an almost unlimited amount of photos that can be taken and digitally stored. It is imperative that any crime scene investigator become familiar with, at a minimum, the basics of whatever camera system he or she may be using. This means things such as depth of field, light meter, filters, shutter, and f-stop, to name a few. You should take note of these camera basics and research definitions and techniques from the course text, as well as outside sources for cameras you may be familiar with or you may be using. For instance, depth of field refers to the zone both in front of and behind the focal point that also appears acceptably sharp. It can be controlled because it is affected by changes in the aperture size. Techniques for crime scene photography are affected by issues such as the size of the scene, lighting conditions, weather, the scene location, any possible hazards that exist, and visual clarity of the items to be photographed. In some cases, investigators use infrared techniques to document crime scenes. Infrared photography records images formed by infrared light. It can be used to locate alterations on documents or to locate grave sites from aerial photographs, and it can be used in a crime lab to detect and document gunshot residue on a bloody or dark fabric surface. Ultraviolet light photography is a technique used to document materials that glow or fluoresce under ultraviolet light sources. Some examples of evidence that is photographed using this technique are things such as semen, certain fibers, and latent fingerprints dusted with fluorescent powders, to name a few. Ultraviolet photography can also be used to photograph body wounds, such as bite marks. There are times in which an investigator might choose to use a video camera to record a crime scene, in addition to using still photographs. The use of video has its advantages as well as its drawbacks. Remember, the intent is to illustrate a storyline to the viewer from a particular perspective. Using video can provide a more relatable view in motion to juries or other people. Some of the drawbacks to the use of video come in the form of unnecessary data or detail that may not be pertinent to the criminal case, such as sporadic and candid audio from the investigators or other technicians at the scene, camera motion, image clarity, and other issues that could only be resolved through editing. The editing of video or even still images can be problematic in a courtroom setting and may jeopardize the admissibility of the video or image into the courtroom setting. In conclusion for this presentation, some key points of interest you should take with you are what the objectives of crime scene photography are, what crime scene forensic photography is and what it is not, what is meant by the phrase rule of three and the basic types of photographs that are taken, what some of the basics are that any crime scene photographer should know about their camera equipment, and any alternative photography techniques that are used by crime scene investigators.